What are the creepiest urban legends from every state? This is part 2, from the ghostly Nightmarchers of Hawaii to the Goatman of Maryland. Let's talk about them. What's going down, Mouse Nation? Today is part 2 of a 5-part series about the creepiest urban legends from every state. This is of course in the US of A, and we'll be doing these in alphabetical order, so make sure you give us a big old shout out once we reach your state. And no matter what state or country you're from, we'd love to hear what your favorite local urban legend is, so make sure you let us know in the comments below. All of these are super creepy, so sit back, turn out the lights, and let's get started. Hawaii, the Nightmarchers. Hawaii, a beautiful island in the Pacific Ocean. And when you hear stories, they're usually of romance and adventure. That is, unless of course you've heard of the Hawaiian urban legend of the Nightmarchers. These Nightmarchers are called Hukaipo on the islands, and they are ghostly apparitions of warriors from the past. Mists rise as they march to the beat of war drums, chanting, holding unusually bright torches, dressed for battle and floating above the ground as they move through the night. Thunder and mighty winds surround the terrain. The oceans become treacherous. Smells of death fill the air, and the sound of a conch being blown, a warning to the living that they're on the move. They roam very specific places, ancient and historical ones, on certain spiritual nights. If you hear them coming, don't look at them. Go inside and lie prone with your head down as a sign of respect. Otherwise, death is violent and immediate. So if you ever hear the sound of war drums in the distance, get out of the way or face the wrath of the Nightmarchers. Idaho, the water babies of Massacre Rocks. This urban legend gets weird. Idaho's legends of the water babies of Massacre Rocks. Many years ago, Native Americans lived on these lands during the time of the Great Famine. The famine was so terrible that one tribe, the Shoshone, decided that they could no longer feed everyone in the village. They decided that no new mouths would be able to be fed. As new children were born, mothers were forced to take them down to the river and drown them. Other young children were taken down in severe times so that they too would no longer suffer and die from starvation. Legend has it that if you sit in silence near the river by Massacre Rocks, the babies will make their presence known. How so, you ask? By crying the same exact way they did all those years ago, the nights when their lives were taken. Now this is as sad as it is terrifying, but like I said earlier, this gets really weird. Supposedly some of these babies grew gills and fins. They roamed the very river they died in and lure unsuspecting victims to their deaths. Illinois, Homie the Clown. It's the fall of 1991 in Chicago, Illinois. Kids were in school and getting ready for Halloween to come that night. There was a really popular clown on a hit TV show named Homie the Clown, played by Damian Wayans. But he wasn't the only clown on everyone's minds that night. In fact, there was another Homie the Clown with sinister plans. You see, what makes this urban legend so terrifying is the fact that it may be true. Rumors spread from home to home and school to school. There was no internet as we know it today. News would spread mouth to mouth and through the media. There was a killer clown on the loose, and he was looking for your children. This clown was roaming neighborhoods in a white van, dressed as a clown and trying to lure children to get inside of it. And in some cases, he'd simply snatch them and force them into the van. What he did with the kids, I'd rather not say. He'd offer candy and balloons, hoping that the children would get just close enough. He'd eventually be tracked down to some projects near Chicago, but he was never found. And to this day, if you ask people from the area, they still remember Homie the Clown, even though they wish that they didn't. Maybe he's still out there today. The 100 Step Cemetery. It seems that every cemetery is said to be haunted. And of course, that makes sense. And I even bet that you could find a cemetery near your hometown with a creepy urban legend attached to it as well. But rarely any are as creepy as this Indiana urban legend. Have you ever wanted to know how or when you'll die? Welcome to the 100 Step Cemetery in Brazil, Indiana. Graves here date all the way back to the 1860s. And it's a pretty large cemetery in its own right. You'll find it at the top of a large hill, but the steps start right from the road. Legend has it that you must make your way there at midnight and count all of your steps as you make your way to the peak of the hill. From there, you turn around toward the open field, towards the graves, and a spirit will appear. But not just any spirit, the spirit of that cemetery's very first undertaker. There his stare will pierce your soul, not speaking a word. Then suddenly, you'll have a vision of your death. The undertaker will then disappear and you'll have to immediately turn around and recount your steps. If you count the same number of steps going down as you did going up, then the vision is true. If the number is different, then the vision was false. Dare to try and find another way to the top of the cemetery, and you'll be violently pushed around by an unseen hand. That hand will leave a burning red print on your body that locals call the mark of the devil himself. Iowa, Villisca Axe Murder House. Now here's another urban legend that's more real than legend. The Villisca Axe Murder House. On a quiet road in the quiet town of Villisca sits a very normal looking, quiet white house. This house isn't normal though. It was once the site of a very real, very horrifying series of murders. 8 to be exact. The Villisca Axe murders happened sometime between the evening of June 10th and early morning of June 11th in 1912. The victims were the 6 members of the Moore family and their 2 visiting house guests, all found dead in their beds with severe head wounds from an axe. Some so gruesome that their eyes were missing. These crimes go unsolved to this very day. This is where the truth ends and the legends begin. The home is said to be extremely haunted. Families who have lived within this home after the deaths are said to not last there very long. Poltergeists move and throw things around. Disembodied voices call from the darkness, their footsteps thumping in the night. Shadows and apparitions appear from nowhere. A ghost hunter even stabbed himself while staying overnight in the home back in 2014. And you too can spend the night there as well for a price of $428 for a group of up to 6 people. Would you? Kansas, Stoll's gateway to hell. Like we talked about earlier, cemeteries always seem to have some kind of legend attached to them. Some are much creepier than others. Stoll Cemetery is definitely one of those. Not only is the occult attached to it, but Satan and even the gateway to hell. A student newspaper called the University Daily Kansan wrote an article in November 1974 that claimed the devil appeared in Stoll twice a year, in Halloween and during the spring equinox. Rumors then spread that the cemetery held one of the 7 gates of hell, and that nearby church ruins had been overtaken by Satan himself. This church has since been bulldozed with no explanation from the landowners, though it's said that evil permeated all around it. So where exactly is this gateway to hell? There are supposedly a set of hidden steps that take you there. And where are these steps? Well, they're covered by a hidden seal, of course. And even if you ever did find them, you should never go down them. Because if you did, there's no coming back from hell. Kentucky. The Kentucky Goblins. Better known as the Kelly Hopkinsville Encounter, this Kentucky urban legend is a supposed close encounter with extraterrestrial beings in 1955. The Air Force classifies this incident as a hoax, but it's also regarded as one of the most well-documented UFO incidents ever. August 21st, 1955. A group of 5 adults and 7 children arrived at the Hopkinsville police station, claiming to have encountered a group of 12 to 5 small alien creatures from a spaceship who began attacking their farmhouse. These creatures would pop up in their windows and doors, and they were only able to hold them off after a 4-hour gunfight. These creatures were short, dark, monkey-like humanoids with large bright eyes, pointed ears, and webbed hands with talons at the ends of their long arms. The police became concerned that it was a gun battle between citizens. So 4 local police officers, 5 state troopers, 3 deputy sheriffs, and 4 military police from the nearby Fort Campbell went to investigate, finding nothing but evidence of a firefight. This eventually garnered national attention, with the color green being added to some news sources, coining the term Little Green Men. Experts felt that the witnesses may have been under the influence and confused great horned owls and a falling meteor for this alien encounter. Meteors and owls, hoax, or actual close encounter with alien beings? You decide. Louisiana, the Grunch. With origins dating back to the 1700s in New Orleans, Louisiana, the Grunch is one of New Orleans' most terrifying urban legends. The story begins with the road that takes you into the dark wilderness, where a group of what many would call freaks would make their home, far away from society. Albinos, dwarves, and others with various deformities lived among them. This road's name? Well, Grunch Road, of course. These people began to breed and have more and more children that looked less and less like human beings. Over time, these beings came to look sort of like a canine, reptilian ape and goat-like creature with black leathery skin, only standing 4 feet high. They are said to feed on mainly pets, goats, and other livestock, but occasionally they put humans on the menu. They hide within the swamps and bayous, waiting to drag their unwitting victims into the dark and murky abyss, sucking their blood out from a single hole in the victim's neck. These creatures have been seen for centuries, but eyewitness accounts rose after the devastating Hurricane Katrina, being flooded from their original hiding places. I doubt I need to say this, but if you see any injured pets on the side of the road and you're in this area, don't stop. Or maybe you'll be the next to disappear, dragged into the unknown. Maine. Colonel Jonathan Buck's tomb. Ah yes, Maine. Beautiful seaside towns, delicious lobster, incredible lighthouses, and ah yeah, a cursed tomb. Colonel Buck's cursed grave is the scapegoat of many an issue that's happened in these parts of Maine. But how does a colonel get his tomb cursed? By a witch, of course. Colonel Jonathan Buck founded the town of Bucksport, Maine, then called Buckstown. He was a well-known war hero and admired town leader. Supposedly, when Colonel Buck was a justice of peace, he had a woman burned alive for being a witch. Some say that as she burned, she then raised her hands to the heavens and cursed him with the following words: "So long shall my curse be upon thee, and my sign upon thy tombstone." Then as the fire consumed her body, her leg fell from her body onto the ground in front of Buck himself. Others say that her deformed son cursed Colonel Buck as he took his mother's leg and ran into the woods. Either way, after his death, his family built a large monument close to his grave. Not long after it was erected, A stain appeared upon it. And what was it? A woman's leg and foot. Maryland, the Goatman. There are many Goatman legends out there, but this one has stood the test of time. There was once a scientist who worked for the Beltsville Agricultural Research Center. This scientist specialized in working with animal DNA. During one experiment, he had a terrible accident, splicing goat DNA with his own, mutating him into a bloodthirsty and monstrous Goatman. He claimed areas of Beltsville and Bowie between Fletchertown Road and Governor's Bridge Road. There he stalks human prey with his bloody axe, attacking vehicles in search of his next meal. If you're feeling brave, you can turn off all your lights and park on his bridge. Chances are, you won't live to tell about it. Thank you guys so much for joining us for another episode of The Creepiest with me, your host Morty Mouse. Are you brave enough to face any of these urban legends? Let us know in the comments below. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. As always, I'm your host Morty Mouse. I'll see you later, or I'll see you on the other side.